I don't know why I said, sure, I can do five classes and full-time work.
Body's voice.
How are you, Bill? I saw Jeff gonna be okay with this new head coach?
Good, yeah, yeah. IUP's looking for an offensive coordinator.
That's it. Yeah, it's all his.
Do you want a different chair?
Certainly.
End up with a short chair?
Probably fix it.
It doesn't go up.
We don't know how that happened.
That's the one.
It's somehow like
I'm
whoever
okay.
arrives late gets
I'm
that
just a
chair.
humble servant. I'm fine. To the desk by the end of the meeting. Somebody pull me out, okay?
When you're down there.
Yeah, the head.
Call the meeting to order. We all stand for a moment of reflection. Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
And Kyle, are you going to call the roll tonight?
Palazzo. Divisor.
Here.
Herring. Lancaster. Newell. Smith. Steelman. Taylor. Warnock. 12 present, 0 absent.
Are there any additions to the agenda?
That just the executive session will be before.
We do have the executive session on the agenda and we will be using it. Sits there. Anything else? In your packet, you have the minutes of the reorganization meeting on January 3rd. Is there a motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Discussion of those minutes. Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. Motion. Of the minutes of the January 18th work session. Is there
I have a question on that. Because they're recorded until the minutes are approved, is that correct? And then once they're recorded, they would delete the recording. Is that how that works?
I don't think the recordings are ever deleted.
Never mind. Okay,
I don't know when we delete.
Not until our cloud storage runs out at the moment. No.
thank you. Just want to clarify.
We still need a second. Okay. Is there any discussion of those minutes of the work session? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Motion carries. Is there any discussion, question? Seeing none. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Now we come to the time in the agenda for public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address the council?
There are people on the list. I know that for a fact. Do you want me to get the list or do you?
Sign-in list.
It doesn't,
Oh, sorry.
No, that's to sign in when you.
There is.
Apologize. But that was,
give us your address and limit yourself to 3 minutes, please.
My name is Eric Barker. I live at 662 Chestnut Street. I am here this evening to encourage the Borough Council to take some positive steps to increase the pedestrian-friendly nature of the proposed Dunkin' Donuts development in the second ward. So from what I've heard, Dunkin' Donuts is planning to, or at least has a proposal to build a building on 5th Street in the second ward. And it's come to my attention that perhaps it's not as pedestrian friendly as it could be. From what I understand, the Borough Planning Commission has recommended opposing the current design of the structure in that it is in conflict with the borough's plans to be pedestrian friendly. I think in particular, it would be good if the proposed building didn't have the parking lot right in front of the building. Instead, if the building was to go through, I think best practice would call for the parking lot to be behind the building. I have some concerns about the drive-through nature. The current plan, I think, calls for the traffic to be exiting onto the street with not a lot of visibility or curb cuts necessarily. It just seems like a lot of things could be improved about this potential building. With Indiana Area School District's recent decision to potentially take students out of Horace Mann or to close Horace Mann Elementary School, that particular neighborhood has already seen a potential hit coming its way. And I know it's very important for the borough to be walkable, and I know this council values that because we recently got a bike lane that's coming through town. The Borough Council has done a lot of positive developments in terms of making things pedestrian friendly, biking friendly, making shade trees, which improves the community. But it concerns me the particular design of this Dunkin' Donuts. Just because other buildings have had variances improved in the past, or Rite Aid has come in with that giant parking lot, doesn't necessarily mean we should be following in that same path. And this comes at something personal to me. A friend of mine was actually killed not too long ago as he was crossing Wayne Avenue outside the McDonald's in the borough. And unfortunately, a pickup truck was exiting that drive-through, and he was walking across to his apartment that was nearby. And unfortunately, he was killed in the middle of the street because of that person exiting that drive-through establishment. Just didn't see him there. So I'd hate for something like that to happen to somebody else. And so I'd just like to encourage the Borough Council to do everything possible to make this more pedestrian friendly. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the council this evening?
Midkiff. I live at 10 Reston Drive, and I volunteer, work, and drive through the borough almost every day for school at IHS. And while I would love to have a Dunkin' that is closer to the school, especially walkable, I do think that it would be a bit ridiculous to build it in this particular way because it's not up to borough standards. It doesn't prioritize pedestrian traffic. And in an area that is designed for people to walk in, like Indiana Borough is, I really think it's important that that be our priority. Thank you, guys.
Else who would like to address it? Yes.
Live at 41 Coates Lane. I understand that the Borough Council is considering enacting an ordinance concerning the decriminalization of small amounts of marijuana. I strongly encourage the council to enact this ordinance as soon as possible. The harms of criminalization are far, far greater than any harm from decriminalization. By passing this ordinance, the borough would not be an outlier, but would be doing what the majority of people think is correct and want. Marijuana arrests for decades have disproportionately devastated minorities and the poor. Entering the criminal justice system subjects the individual to all the collateral consequences, like affecting their employment, like interacting with real criminals. Frequently, that negatively and permanently alters that person's life. It is important that the ordinance state that police officers in the borough shall use the ordinance rather than may use the ordinance, because cities where shall language was used resulted in more consistent and prolonged decrease in arrests. In 2019, I wrote a Gazette, as I see it, column titled, "It's Time for a Change." I was frustrated and saddened then and remain frustrated and saddened now when I read the Gazette police logs. A few examples of what is commonly in the police log. And I'm going to not read the person's name, although the Gazette prints their name. Drug violation. John Doe was charged with possession of a small amount of marijuana and the traffic violations in papers filed with district court in Clymer. Drug violation. Jane Doe, 19, was charged with possession of a small amount of marijuana. Borough Police reported. A hearing is set for January in Indiana District Court. Every week that council delays in enacting this ordinance will cause more individuals to be harmed. By passing this ordinance as soon as possible, you can make a true positive effect on the people's lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address the council at this time?
Council President, there's one hand raised.
There is.
Hello? Hello? Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Tammy Curry and I live at 30 McLean Road in Indiana. And I want to discuss the decriminalization of marijuana as well. I don't see it on the agenda, but I'm just wondering if it's being put in under a committee meeting or committee agenda tonight. I did ask Vice President Newell in an email how one might view the letters that have allegedly been received regarding this, but I didn't receive an answer. So my question is, how would one view those, and can you do it with or without a right to know? I further suggested that there be a separate public meeting to discuss this at more length, and that should include all law enforcement in the area, including state police, sheriff's department, and IUP police, because they would not fall under the borough's jurisdiction, that they would have to follow this ordinance. Furthermore, I'm not sure if anybody's aware, but yesterday there was a Republican Senate committee meeting regarding the legalization of adult use marijuana. Now, in reading the publications that have been out there, I'm not seeing anything, and in speaking to other people, I'm assuming that you're going to be adopting the state college ordinances. However, I have a concern about that because it does nowhere does it say adult use decriminalization, which concerns me because there are currently 2 elementary schools within the borough confines, a middle school, as well as IUP, and these are all drug-free zones. So in reading the consequences for minors who are found in possession of marijuana on school property, use of marijuana on school property, or possession with the intent to deliver, I'm seeing that the consequences for these things are minimal. 5-day suspension up to a 10-day suspension and or going through a program. So I am concerned about this within the borough limits because of the schools. Furthermore, again, with IUP police, state police, and sheriff's department, if they arrest someone, that is not, they're going to follow the state laws. So there's a real gray area here that you need to look into. Also, this saying that people have a small amount of marijuana on their record, one offense is not going to stay on their record should they pay their fines and complete any programs. It's expunged, and we all know this. anybody that leaves IUP, and I'm real kind of tired of it being made into a racial thing too. Anyone that leaves IUP with any drug arrests on their record obviously are doing this because guess what? They haven't paid their fines and they haven't completed programs. So I'm adamantly opposed to this. I truly am, because I do not feel that marijuana use is something that should be public. I myself am a
Good
medical
contribution.
marijuana
Your
card holder.
time is up. Your time is up,
Oh, okay.
Tammy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, is there anyone else now? Carl? One more hand.
See what that is? I was wondering what the noise was.
Coming online.
Hello?
Hi, Walter. We see you.
Yes, yes.
The protocol is to have you state your name and your address, and then.
Not a problem. I was just checking, Pete, to make sure that everybody heard me.
Yep.
My name is Walter Schroth. I live at 145 Martin Road, Indiana, PA. I'm coming tonight as a business owner to speak about the decriminalization of marijuana. My concern is the impact that it will have on the ability of businesses to hire CDL truck drivers. As you may or may not know, anybody who has a CDL is subject to alcohol and drug screenings on a random basis. I can tell you that it is extremely difficult to find people who can pass a drug test, either prior to employment or sometimes will fail one after they've been employed. One of the issues that I have is I would take a libertarian view as far as the personal use by adults of marijuana. But the problem is that the other laws, both federal and state, also impact what happens. And let me give you an example. If you were to drink a can of beer, a wine, or hard liquor, the old aviation rule was 8 hours from the bottle to the throttle. We have a very defined legal definition as to what is drunk and what isn't. I don't know that exists with the use of marijuana, first of all. And second of all, it's my understanding that marijuana can remain in your system for as much as a month. If that truck driver, bus driver, whoever has a CDL driver's license and is involved in a fatal accident, they will be drug tested. That's an automatic procedure. When that happens, if that person is to found to have that in his system, without the changes in the federal and state laws, that liability will then squarely go to either the company that's hired the driver or the school district or whoever has the school buses. And this is a real problem because the lawyers will, unfortunately, regardless of who is at fault, make the claim, and somewhat substantially so, that that person was impaired by the drugs that they had taken. If that were to be removed, then that removes at least my main concern over sending the wrong message to the people that it's okay to use this when in fact it impacts their employment or their employability. Thank you, Pete.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Nobody on his raised? Just Jim. We don't usually twice, but
I leave a copy of this article I wrote for the Gazette for any member who might be interested in reading it. Should I do?
Nicole there, look at it.
all right. If there are no other members of the public, then we are going to adjourn into an executive session. We'll be reconvening with the rest of the meeting afterwards It's an executive session for personnel matters, I
Eh.
believe,
Personnel and legal.
personnel and legal. So ask non-council members to please step outside. Administration Committee.
We're just reporting that we decided to move forward with the 4 parking spaces for the Dunkin' Donuts, recommending the language to go forward to a decision to full council in March. Nicole, I don't know if you have any other highlights from the deliberations from the December or any of the other reports. If not, it's in the minutes.
Meetings, no action items.
Development.
I have a quick question. When you, with those, with the motion you guys are going to bring forward, would you be willing to bring forward 2 motions that split the parking spaces by street? So 1 motion for Philadelphia Street, 1 motion for South.
But,
We have a chance.
and come back with an answer for you next time, but it wasn't voted
I mean,
on.
let me put it this way. If you don't split them, I'm going to make a friendly amendment to split them. I'd like to consider them separately. And I think it will make them for a better conversation. So that's why I'm requesting that they come forward as 2 different motions.
We'll take it under consideration for the next meeting.
All right, thank you.
So admin, you'll have another conversation at the next admin meeting about those board parking places. And then you'll bring it forward to the March, beginning of March meeting.
Bradman?
Our minutes from our January 17th meeting, a couple of highlights. Under Planning Commission, there's mention of the Historic Architecture Review Board having a meeting. That meeting is going to happen this Thursday at 5:30 in the chambers here. It's sort of it's not the actual HARB that's meeting, it's sort of the HARB pre-planning committee to try and set the HARB up. So that's happening on Thursday at 5:30. There's discussion in here of the ARP funds. So the data has been, the second round of data has been collected, and hopefully at your February meetings, if you have already had a meeting, you've had some discussion of that. And if you haven't had a February meeting yet, at your February meetings, there'll be some discussion of the data and also sort of trying to get feedback from the committees about how that money, how to direct those funds. So the plan is for that then to come to full council at our March meeting based on those discussions with the various staffs at your meetings. The LRTA ordinance passed through committee. Staff is working on sort of the underlying paperwork and also the coordination with the county tax assessor. And so once all those pieces are together, that'll come to council for a vote. Those of you who've been watching the Hoodlebug trailhead map, in anticipation of seeing a map show up there, it's coming soon. It's getting better by the draft, so that'll be up before too long. There was some discussion at our meeting about trying to think about expanding our economic development in the borough, and we've asked staff to kind of look into, what would the cost be and what would maybe some of the job description for a potential, short-term development strategist, partly with the idea of trying to leverage the borough for remote work. And so there was some discussion around that. These are discussions we've had before in committee, but it was a nice conversation about, trying to lure people to come live in the borough, and especially folks that can work elsewhere, because there's a trend in that direction. So hopefully we can continue that conversation. And then our meeting concluded with sort of an update from planning and code from Stephanie Dunlap in particular about sort of where the Dunkin' Donuts development was, again, as of January 17th, right? So 3 weeks ago. But that basically the PennDOT study had come back. That's that item I, lowercase Roman numeral 1 there, that the stacking analysis, according to PennDOT, shows that there won't be much change pre versus post construction. They have filed their consolidation plan to consolidate the lots from 3 lots to 1. The storm management and erosion plan had also been submitted. And that at some point there'd have to be building plans that would be submitted and reviewed by PennSafe. And then, as I think we've seen already in one report, and we'll probably see another report, the developer was coming to various committees regarding parking spaces, as well as moving street lights and a tree. And so that was just because people had been asking kind of where we were in the process. That was the report from our planning staff as of the 17th.
Can I ask you a question? And I apologize for this. I hear different people, not just in the county, but in the community, saying something about the design, and then I heard the gentleman say the design had been voted on already. Is that accurate? Okay, so his approval was through their designers then? Is that what that means?
Through council.
There's not like a design vote on council.
Again, I apologize. I just keep hearing that phrase said, and people are saying, oh, I don't like this part of it. And then I hear the design's already approved. And so that's what was throwing me off.
Basically, what the conditional use hearing that was held was solely to whether or not to approve parking spaces in the front of that building. That's all it was. And that council at that time voted to approve that. Okay, now, as part of their development of that location, they have other things they have to do, such as parking meter removal, tree moving, light posts being moved potentially, stormwater management. Then they will have to submit their building plans. Now, that's to make sure essentially that the building is up to code, not necessarily, you know, I don't want to say aesthetics or, but it's mainly to make sure the building's sound.
There's a signature on some line already that says, this is what it'll look like if we build it. Right? It can be subject to change if the parties that be wanted to, deem it to. Okay, just want to make sure. Because when he said that, it threw me off a little bit. I'm like, well, what are we all talking about if it's already been approved?
The only thing that this body has voted on was to approve parking spaces on the sides and in front of that building. That is all that has come before this body.
And it is a really good question, because the developer has said that a couple times, that this has been approved. It has not been approved by council. So that's not really, that's not a vote that this council will look at. What we will look at, what we do look at is the zoning, the special exempt zoning. It's these moving the meters, moving the lamppost, moving the tree. And so what we've got to consider is all those things. Like that's the only chance that, you know, we have, and you think about, how many special exemptions does the particular development need to have in order to fit, at some point you're like sort of fitting that square peg into a round hole, right? And so that's really what our role is. There's not really a vote on, we like this design. The vote, where we are able to weigh in are these votes, the one on the parking meters one. I did have a question about what exactly we did approve when we gave the special exemption for parking. Was that was only for Philly Street, right? That doesn't include South Fifth Street.
For which parking? We approved parking on the front and
The
sides.
front and sides of their proposed lot.
So on the side on Fifth Street?
Well, it wouldn't necessarily get to Fifth Street because the way that it cuts out, there's that entrance egress.
There's no parking going over to Fifth Street.
No.
So the egress on Fifth Street, that curb cut there, so they're removing, right. They're removing what's currently code. There's the commercial one, so there's a business that fronts the sidewalk. They're removing that and putting essentially parking there. They're putting a driveway there.
Driveway.
So did they, so the exemption we gave them for parking, that also includes removing that and putting that driveway in? Where does that curb cut permission come
We
in?
have not given any permission for the curb cut.
You don't need to remove the meters in order to do the curb.
All you gave permission for, this council gave permission for, was for them to allow parking on the sides and in the front.
Where do they get permission for the curb cut? How do you just take out 20? Like, I realize we have an opportunity to weigh in that with the parking meters, but how do you just remove 20 feet of sidewalk and make a driveway where there was sidewalk, and like, is there no, who sees that approval?
The PennDOT thing?
something.
You need a driveway.
I would believe it would be, I would believe it comes from planning.
For the planning department, sheets of writing had a driveway.
The requirements for that are just basically administrative. So you can remove 20 feet of sidewalk with just an administrative signature.
Probably in the borough code.
Anything else? Safety. Oh,
County tomorrow on the LERTA thing at 10 a.m. So
Or,
Yeah,
Okay.
with Francisco, and I've been in communication with their solicitor, Matt Hudash, regarding, the one thing that he brought up was a reversion clause. Basically, if you're not paying your taxes, if you own multiple properties in the borough and you're not paying your taxes on the other properties, do you become, you shouldn't benefit from LERTA if you're not paying your other taxes. The county would like that in there. Now, I don't, the school district's already passed their version, so, but I'll get some language from him that the county likes, and we may have to add it in. Okay?
So I had a final question on community development. Looking at the material on Dunkin' Donuts, what is the stacking analysis and
Cars backing up at lights, basically. So according to PennDOT, it will have no effect.
on in this case?
PennDOT black magic? I mean, seriously, I mean, you've been here long, you've been as long as I have, Sarah. PennDOT does what PennDOT does. It doesn't, very rarely.
Are they talking about on Fifth Street there? That, like, that light's horrible anyway. Maybe that's their point. It sucks anyway.
The stacking is the stacking of vehicles at a light is what they're referring to. But beyond that, I don't know what equation they use for that analysis.
And it's worthwhile to note that that does not include a pedestrian analysis. PennDOT's analysis does not include pedestrian. They're only focused on cars, how to move cars faster. That's why like crosswalk at 7th and Fifth and Philly anymore. It's because PennDOT's goal is to move cars faster. They're not interested in pedestrian.
And even at that, I mean, this does seem to have a certain element of magic, black or otherwise, involved.
We were very explicit about that light 11. We passed the resolution. We went to public comment, and PennDOT completely ignored all of our concerns. I had some feelings about it.
all right, anything else? Public safety.
Okay, we met on January 20th. We had a lengthy meeting. It went over 2 hours. Among the things, you have the minutes. Do want to point out that the Chief Justice from the local NAACP, he's been very involved with attending their meetings and involved with the organization. Also, he had an article was published on the Indiana Borough Police Department titled "A Non-Traditional Partnership to Increase Trust and Safety." That was published in the Pennsylvania Chiefs of Police Winter Bulletin. That's another thing I think we should be very proud of with our police department. Big thing is, one of the big things is we approved of this council action item in public safety. We'd like to extend a conditional offer of employment to Noah Miller contingent on a successful background check to fill the vacancy that will be created by the retirement of John Scherf on January 28th, 2022, with a tentative date of hire being March 1st, 2022.
Second for that, or?
Council, so we have to vote on it. And
how would I say again? All right, so we don't have to, all in favor, right?
There's a roll call vote, didn't you? I think it's up to the president or interim president to choose.
She's the vice president, so she's in.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions? All right.
Yeah.
Signify by saying aye.
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 The body worn camera policy is still being developed. Currently, the police department is currently learning and training on use of body cameras and how they operate. They are not in use in the community yet. We want to have a policy in line before they use them in the community. We had a long discussion. We had Matt Frank was here from the Armstrong, Indiana Behavioral and Developmental Health Programs Mobile Crisis Unit. He attended the meeting. Many of you may have known there are two homeless people, a man and a woman, who have been in our community in recent months. Numerous citizens have made calls to the police department in regard to the homeless people. Everyone is concerned about their well-being. Nobody has called and said, why are there homeless people? It's, are they needs being met? Are they okay? As of October 19th, 2021, 9 contacts and wellness checks were made with in regards with the homeless woman. It's got to the point, and this is why we had someone from the mobile crisis unit here. It's got to the point that she's starting to say we're harassing her. The police are. So we did have a discussion. The police department has consulted with Lisa Spencer, the director of Indiana's County's Health and Human Services. Numerous agencies have been notified by the police department, including Indiana County Community Action Program. Most people know it as ICAP, the Armstrong, Indiana Behavioral and Developmental Health Program Mobile Crisis Unit, the Salvation Army, and the Department of Health and Human Services. Both homeless people are currently refusing assistance. And because they're not a danger to themselves or to others and are not breaking any laws, we pretty much, the police can offer them services or help, and they have the right to refuse it. So there will be a meeting that the chief and I are going to be a part of on Friday afternoon with Lisa Spencer from the County Health and Human Services, dealing with homelessness in the county. And we are pleased that people are concerned about their well-being. It's just, like I said, unless they are deemed breaking a law or a danger to themselves or others, all we can do is offer assistance. They have every right to refuse it. We do want to bring up again that we need to encourage people to support Citizens Ambulance by becoming members. It's been talked about in other meetings here in prior years. The amount reimbursed by the insurance companies to the ambulance service is not enough to cover their budget, and membership would help. That's pretty much it for the meeting.
Public target, 100,000, 300,000, 500, like, is that a release number that they're trying to raise?
There's part of
Citizens.
but citizens.
I mean, I mean.
Part of it's-
Support, but what does that look like? I mean, $20 probably doesn't move the needle, right? But it says 200,000 move the needle.
A few years ago that if every household would subscribe and become a member, it would pretty much eliminate a lot of their budget problems. There's just so many people that don't. There's a lot of people that just don't see it, like my wife and I see it as an insurance policy. We want it here just like we support the fire department. We want them here if the shit hits the fan for us.
I can certainly appreciate that.
And I think if more people would do that, it would help their case. The big thing is with insurances, if they go to a certain call and a person doesn't get transported to the hospital, they don't get any money.
Medicare and Medicaid don't even come close to what their fees are.
So that's part of the
And a
problem.
lot of calls are things like, my grandmother's fallen, we can't lift her, we need help. And that counts as a call. That means the crew goes out, there's wear and tear put on the ambulance, the whole bit.
A little more what a targeted goal might be, you might be able to solicit support from a business, for example. You know, maybe somebody could mow their lawn, could contribute in other ways that wouldn't necessarily be here's money, I could give a service, you could give a service. That's why I asked more, what might a target goal be? Because there's other ways to alleviate budgetary needs.
They come and give a report every couple years. Yeah, yeah, yes.
Some matching grants and things like that.
And that's what I said, because you were bringing up, getting the community behind it. There's more than one way to do that.
Get it out there so we get more people to consider it. Any questions? Other questions?
Public Works. Great. So we met on January 26th. We had a hybrid Zoom in-person meeting. Appreciated staff's flexibility to allow it to happen because I guess two of us were down with some sickness as it turned out. We did have some public comment. Jeremy Garlina there, resident of White Township, spoke regarding the needs of disabled folks in Indiana and volunteered to lead a group to undertake this task. This is a big deal. This adds to, I think, our conversation about walkability. We want to make sure.
Repeat that. I didn't quite catch what you just said.
Jeremy Garlina, resident of White Township, spoke regarding the needs of a disabled people in Indiana. Sorry if I misspoke. Spoke regarding the needs of disabled people in Indiana and volunteered to lead a group to undertake this task. I think we've had a couple folks in the disability community have been to chat with us, and so the good thing is there's some outreach through our bike ped committee, which is doing exactly that, putting together a pedestrian bike plan for the entire borough. There's some money involved there. So if there are folks that you know that are interested in, particularly in the disabled communities, there's some representation we're looking for. Probably see our code folks. We did talk about some snow. If we go around to our director's report, I'll be sort of quick. The highlight there is that the boiler system in the borough building passed inspection. The highlight. Again, we've talked a lot about infrastructure needs that are here, and that gives us some breathing room, but not that much. So that's ongoing thinking about our building. Our crews have been out much more than twice. This was on January, so it's been a lot more than that. I feel like you guys have been out like every day, same driving by the house. Wastewater treatment plant continues to operate well. You can see some rainfall totals. Obviously, it's about a month late. However, there are some fixes there. There's one particular big fix there towards the bottom. The settling tanks. I think we might have reported before. One of these is going to need to be rebuilt. We had some quotes. They're not attached. These are big quotes. These repairs come out of our sewage maintenance. Sewage operator maintenance.
Sewer operating and then.
So we do have, and that's a healthy fund, but we'll see that coming up, and that'll be a big money item that we're going to want to approve. And we're continuing to control our modules down there at wastewater treatment plant. I'm going to keep moving. Thanks to the crew for doing the leaf collection throughout December and putting up the decorations and taking them down, picking up Christmas trees. They have been super busy. Some full 12-hour shifts. I think they've maxed out a couple times on these big snow events where our crew has been out for the maximum time that they're really allowed to be out without a break, because there's just been so much snow. So I think they've done a fantastic job keeping up. Still keeps coming. There's a couple of motions here, Nicole. I think, do we need a motion? These aren't included on action items, but usually when we vote on money, we vote, make a whole vote. So if we hit the engineer's report here, we are still in our corrective action plan for sewers, where we received a extension, so we're on mostly on target. We need to get our smoke testing done. We need to approve the fourth quarter CAP report and submit it to DEP. So that's moving committee. So is there any discussion?
Everyone see the motion?
For the fourth quarter CAP report and submit it to DEP.
If you remember, is a corrective action plan. Doesn't need a second. It's a motion coming from the committee. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thanks. The second one, this is our South 7th Street stormwater project. This is a great one. This is reducing, we're receiving this money back and we have to make a motion for it. The contract ended up being $50,000 less than they had bid it. And so forward to this one, all right on. So the motion is to, what is it? To approve, it's a change order. Sorry, the motion is to approve the final change order number 1 from Shadco to reduce the contract for $50,175.25.
Can I ask the maybe obvious question? Did they do everything they're supposed to do? Okay.
I might talk fast and it doesn't if you're not it's hard to follow all the things. We discuss these quite a bit. And my question is always to our engineers who know more, should we approve this? And our engineers and our staff are on it. Yes. Yes. And so that is the right question. So yes.
Mr. Smith, I'm sorry, I did not catch the number.
$50,175.25.
Thank you.
We ready to vote? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Thanks. So the third one is the, I think this is our final pay estimate for that same project. This is just sort of the way these bills come in. It's a little bit funny. Now we are paying out $22,507.89 for the completion of the 7th Street stormwater project. This is in the budget. This is budgeted for. This is not expected or is not unexpected. Is it?
Any discussion? All in favor of this motion, signify by saying aye.
Good question. Where does that fund go back to? What account?
So we're actually probably going to use that for engineering costs. That's actually the county's money that is earmarked to our.
Projects? Something
Yes.
like that?
So, yes.
Like super. Gotcha. Thank you.
There are earmarks for these kind of projects. So it doesn't just go back in the general fund. Sometimes these kind of
Where it originated initially, so.
projects that could happen once in a while, but this is CDBG money. I think that's a great question. Because money, not all money is equal. Moving right along, there was it's considerable discussion. The folks from Dunkin' Donuts came to ask us to move a light pole. You see that I clearly had some exception to the design and have a hard time changing any infrastructure of the borough for the project. I think we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. We spent a lot of money to make that downtown streetscape looking like it does. And what we found is that where he wants to move the pole just doesn't make any sense. It's going to get in front of a tree box. It's going to, and in case you actually went out there, right?
Yeah, I went over there to measure because they said they were going to move it 6 feet. It's actually pretty close to the tree box already. If you move it 6 feet, there is no way that lamppost is not going to affect the tree canopy. Like you could stand there and look up and the branches will eventually grow more. That's the goal, right? So that's a big problem. Also, we're moving it directly in front of another business. So they will have a tree and a light post right in front of their signage for the chiropractor. That's right there, their neighbor. So we tabled it and I guess we'll discuss it a little more.
Stephanie, and on that Friday, we went down and looked and he measured to see what the conditions of the tree would be. So he will have a report for you guys at the meeting.
All right.
Again, on our agenda for public works again. We looked at the fee schedule. I think all the committees are looking at the fee schedule. The one thing we have been thinking about is our sewage lines. Up until recently, our sewage maintenance fees are remarkably low for our borough. They're very, very low. And we had been in a process of raising it between 50 cents and $1, keep up with inflation. We haven't in the last year or two, but our corrective action plan is going to result in some big costs. So it does make sense. We asked our staff to think about if a 50 cent or $1 increase in that fee can happen. And that'll be back again. Moving on, our IUP collaboration with, it's now with the Allegheny Health Department as well. And CMU is getting involved in terms of our research at our wastewater treatment plant for COVID. That's the data point there from January, in the middle of January, the Omicron load was at 81%, and that was up from 7% just before the beginning of the year. Obviously, it's delayed results, so it's probably down again. Let's see, we had, do we need a whole motion for the right-of-way obstruction? Do we need a full vote? So there was a request from business at 56 South 6. It's the, there's an insurance agency there. Frick Insurance is what it is. And they had a request for a sign to put just barely in the borough's right of way. We took a look at it. It does not impede sight lines. It looks attractive. Our committee thought it was
It
good.
doesn't even look like it's in the right of way, but
We're not even.
it's determined by law how far it is.
Yeah, it's not even in the tree lawn. It's actually on the business side of the sidewalk there. So we approved it. And so we're hoping that council can vote to approve it too.
Okay. Questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
And there is one more. We entered into an agreement with CMU. Again, this is with our COVID-19 data sharing. Essentially, what we are trying to do is offload this work. So it was mostly, we are just the host of the place and the researchers come and do it. Our wastewater treatment plant, nor is Roland, even that we are not biologists or necessarily virologists. So we have entered into a couple of agreements, first with IUP. We're also working with Allegheny Health Department, and this is with CMU to let them do the analysis. Eventually, we'll be out of the biobot business, and so we won't be paying them at all. So it'll really just be sort of a hub for research. So it's a great collaboration. It's a great partnership. It's a great opportunity for our fantastic wastewater treatment plant to really extend its sort of networking around. So that's the recommendation, and we thought it was a great idea. I hope you do too.
And committee member Steele is a biologist.
Got a degree in biology too, that's fine.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Thanks, and that was all.
That's it. Shade Tree, and we have a report from Shade Tree.
Yes, we did have enough for a quorum for a meeting, although the arborist wasn't there on January 24th. From those present, it was at 518 Philadelphia Street, getting back to the Dunkin' Donuts thing. Request to remove and transplant a tree pending approval for the new curb cut. Approval request to either transplant or replace the tree. Timing of when work will be done will be dictated whether replacement or transplanting will be best option. Tree will need to be dormant for it to be transplanted. And since the last meeting of the Shade Tree Commission, Bob C. had approved 16 trees for removal. Jared has sent letters, 2 pruning letters also sent, and a permit to remove a red maple in a 400 block of Philadelphia Street was received but needs to be reviewed. The Rite Aid tree pruning issue has not been resolved. Lancaster Bradwick made a final donation and said that the donations could be used for both tree purchasing and planting. It was mentioned that since Dave Fairman retired, the Shade Tree Commission now has to pay for planting, to hire somebody to do the planting. And at Arbor Day, April 29th, there's discussion is going on to recognize Dave Fairman for what he did for the Shade Tree Commission when he was an employee of the borough. And trimming plans will be discussed in next month's meeting, which is February 28th.
Under the Borough Council members got, the next Shade Tree Commission meeting is February the 21st. I mean, I assume the Shade Tree Commission can meet whenever it wants, but it would be good if the if everybody thought the Shade Tree Commission was meeting on the same day of the month. Because every now and then members of the public do want to drop in.
The wrong date on their minutes because I see it's 21 on my calendar also.
21 is the correct date.
Yeah.
For clarity, okay.
Decision on the tree removal?
It's all going to be pending approval for the new curb cut and what the arborist's recommendations are. Okay.
The letters that went out, how often do those tree inspections happen?
I don't know. It's my first meeting, so.
For you on that. So Bob Chrisan, he comes in every so often and he'll inspect trees and write them down as he sees them. And then, so depending on, there's no set time of when the letters, if they go out at the beginning of the year or the middle or the end, depending on how many he sees and will generate. If he's in an area, he mostly will look at that whole area and then send out letters based on, you know, how many he has. At that time, there's just happened to be 16 and.
'Cause I believe when we spoke on the phone, you had suggested the next meeting for more topic on this. So I don't want to take up time now.
Yes, to go on. Or the work session. Yeah, yeah. I think because you want to discuss the ordinance.
Questions. For example, how do we only have two pruning letters sent in this town? That's it? Of all the trees, only two? You know, trees are near and dear to my heart. I own, part of what I do for a living is take care of trees. And for there to only be 2 line of sight violations or something to that nature, and I don't know the effects, and I know he's not here, and I don't need to get too far into it right now. So I have a lot of questions, so. But as you said, your first meeting and the gentleman is not here, and we had talking about it next week anyway.
He would have tried to attend anything that we asked of him, and he just couldn't, he was out of town and wasn't gonna be able to make it to the meeting.
Questions could wait a week or however, you know, it's not like anything's gonna burn down if we don't ask them right now.
So you're more than welcome to call him or come to the next Shade Tree meeting.
That's why I want a clarification on the date, because I do plan on going to that meeting.
First of all, I do want to thank the Public Works Street crew. They have, the last few weeks, they've been out plowing and treating our streets and roadways and have lots of good comments that have come my way. So we do want to recognize them. And also, we want to throw in wastewater treatment plant. Thursday, due to the raid, there were 24/7. They were 24 hours down there. Roland put a 24-hour shift down there Thursday and did not leave, I think, until Friday afternoon sometime. But so we do want to recognize the wastewater treatment plant crew too for all they've done in the last couple of weeks. I got to attend the match campaign on February 2nd. The borough was part of the municipalities for the Citizens Ambulance, and they did a presentation. And I want to pass on to the Borough Council their gratitude on the borough being part of contributed to their campaign. They were able to purchase 8 new cardiac monitors, and it was a very nice presentation that they presented, and was very grateful for the borough's participation. I want to go over, so the code, the borough has this book, and I can guarantee you the new council members probably don't have it, and some of you old council members probably have no idea where yours are at. But but this code is like a Bible to most our planning and code, and I'm sure the police department uses it a lot. We need to update it, and we are in right now with general code. They are going to update everything. We're waiting for the agreement to come back, and they will update, and then that will be done all online. But in the meantime, I would like to collect these books from you guys, the ones that do have them, because they're outdated, and we need to either make a decision to just go with the online ones, or if you do like a copy, we'll figure that out and update them. So if you do have them, bring them back because they're not updated anyways, and we're moving forward with updating the online one. The borough just submitted a letter of support to the Partners for Work to the Chamber of Commerce, that they're in the process of applying for funding through the Good Jobs Challenge for employees to fill vacant jobs in the next several years. So we submitted a letter today, actually, for that. And then this kind of goes on what Ben says. I want to let all committees know that February committee meeting, they'll have the ARP funding on all the agendas. I've been working with Steph and Kyle on a list that we're going to bring to each committee and then work with the committees to prioritize the list. So our goal is to come to the committees with a list and ideas and work from there and prioritize what we feel we can use the ARP for the funding for. And then the last thing I just want to point out, if you're coming into the borough office and are calling, we've been very short-staffed. Unfortunately, COVID has hit the borough office pretty hard, and our payroll clerk is obviously out right now too. So be patient if you do call and it goes to voicemail. We'll get back. We are short-staffed. We've been dealing with getting hit pretty hard here. So be safe, take precautions. So, and that's all I have.
Questions for the manager?
Mr. President, thank you. First, just reflecting upon the public safety report given earlier. First, I'll say Mr. Lancaster is always very kind, and he gives credit and sometimes credits me a bit more than I'm even comfortable with. So I just want you to know this. Your police department is excellent. It is a high functioning professional organization, every single member. It makes leading that group always an honor. So I think by virtue of me bringing things through Public Safety Committee, I end up getting credit for lots of things that are everyone's responsibility. So without every member of the police department, we would not be anywhere. You certainly wouldn't need me, and I certainly wouldn't be capable of anything that we've accomplished on my own. So I just want to draw that out. Thank you for your kindness, but it's a complete team effort. You have great employees. Secondly, I've appreciated this month working with Mayor Simmons and Manager Cepas. They've both been excellent partners, and I think that the borough is very fortunate to continue a trend of good people in those roles. And thank you for your support for the conditional offer of employment for the police department. Maintaining good employees is extremely important, as is recruitment is always extremely important. So we want to make sure that we continue giving the community our best foot forward, and this is certainly a step affirmative in that direction. The calls for service are listed in your in your council packet for December. There's really nothing that jumps off the page for December, and moreover, next week I'm giving a presentation on the police department at work session. So some of these numbers will certainly be expanded upon for the benefit of council as a whole. The year in review, of course, February 15th. I want to remind council that I will be appearing, and I ask for a few moments of your time at the beginning of every committee meeting to give you our perspective from the police department on the marijuana ordinance that has been proposed. So starting February 14th with the Community Development Committee and continuing through to administration, I would appreciate a few moments at the beginning of the agenda for that conversation. As far as public safety goes, Detective John Scherf retired. He retired effective January 28th. And that very nice articles appeared in the Indiana Gazette. We do have a tradition at the police department of honoring the officers who retire, who were awarded or bestowed certain awards throughout their career. And I just want council to know that we'll be recognizing John Scherf's work at the police department on February 17th, at the beginning of public safety at 7 p.m. Should they're never lengthy, but they're always special to the police department, special to the employees. So I wanted to make sure that all knew that was occurring. And I want to circle back to the homelessness discussion that was mentioned by Mr. Lancaster, which should have started my report. I just want to reiterate that the police department's involved in all conversations that can bring value to the community on the topic of homelessness. We don't have great answers. We always are balancing our ability to serve individual community members and their needs with so we just want to be cautious, but we are a committed partner in all things that can bring success. We're certainly, as an organization, going to be part of those conversations with our partners because it has been a topic. Without that, it's an honor to lead with each of you, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's been a busy month. There's some issues that the manager, myself, and the chief have all been working very diligently on. I've also been working with the code department on some of the issues that were raised at our previous meeting regarding some property issues. I believe that we'll be able to bring some of these matters to fruition in the very near future. But otherwise, it's been an eventful month, but we'll continue to keep working and striving to make Indiana Borough a well-run and professional organization.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for the solicitor? Then must be my turn. All right, just a few things happened. Hasn't been that long since our last meeting. Some of us met with Superintendent Vukovic and members of the school board in regard to their concerns about the proposal to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana. I thought that their fears were allayed, although we just heard from the president of the school board from a different angle. Meetings of the steering committee for the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force. First one dealt with plans for the next summit, which at this point looks like will take place early in the fall. Second one was an initial brainstorming on ideas for recommendations to make to the county commissioners regarding how to spend their ARP funds. So we're working together. We're going to try to make sure that we don't overlap. No, whatever. Some of us also attended what was billed as, this is, Nicole talked about this, it was billed, but I got annoyed because they kept us standing up for over an hour. Photo opportunity with Citizens Ambulance, where they would be thanking the local governments that had supported them, and they did thank us, and they were clearly appreciative. There was that, but also turned into a rather lengthy presentation on a new piece of equipment they had purchased with our money, and one that will probably save some lives in the future. I received an invitation this afternoon from White Township for anyone interested in future township planning to attend a public meeting at the East Pike Recreation Center on Tuesday, 2/2/2/2/2. Tuesday. Yeah, I hadn't said yet, but I was getting there. If you didn't receive the invitation and are interested, let me know and I will forward it to you. They're going to be looking at their long-range plan and they reached out to me and other people who not only are residents of White Township, but who are part of the greater White Township community. Finally, I'd like to offer the borough's welcome to the 2 families from Afghanistan who have recently relocated to Indiana. This has been part of the organization that sponsored them, led by Pum Sunachawi Taylor. Official Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I have 1 month in and I've been spending time meeting with the police department, getting to know everybody that's involved. And Chief Shaw is correct. It's a very professional organization. They're well organized and I'm learning a lot just by being around them every day. So that's where I'm spending my time. I have been talking a little bit with the Chamber of Commerce. They still are very interested in developing stronger downtown Indiana. So that's another thing from a business point of view. And that's about it right now.
Any questions for the mayor?
Even Axel gets along with me. I like that. He's the first one to greet me. He's a good guy. So, thank you.
Is there any unfinished business? We have one piece of new business, which is
Did you say that you did speak to Vukovic or you will be speaking?
I did speak to Popovich. It wasn't just me.
I was there.
We both did, and Nicole was there. So.
Okay, thank you.
It's not quite unfinished business, but since the last meeting, Luke, Tammy, and I had the opportunity to go to the training. And I just want to express my thanks, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, it was invaluable, but I know there was a value to it. So thank you for sending us. The materials we got are so helpful. So, I mean, I know I'm brand spanking new, but even if you've been here a while and you're thinking, what do I do? Where do I turn? I have all that and I'll keep bringing it. Or if you ever want to call me or email me, it was a great session and I just want to thank you for sending us.
And some of the contacts we made while we're there, honestly, I forget the gentleman's name at the moment, but if you got a question, call this guy.
I know it.
He doesn't necessarily know all the answers, but he knows so many people who might know the answers.
Right.
And same with I forget both their names, I'm bad with names. The man and the woman that both ran that, both of them had so many contacts and so much years of experience that I told them both, if I forget everything else you said, if I remember your business card, worth going. So,
Thank you.
yes, I second that.
Oh, very much. Thank you.
one piece of new business, which is this tree appeal.
I can start it and then I'm probably gonna have to refer to Pat or the solicitor because this is new for me too, this, the whole appeal of the, of a tree removal. So as we said earlier in the shade tree report, the arbitrist sent out 17 notices to residents on their trees that he felt needed to be removed. Out of those 17, 8 permits were issued. So out of those 17, 8 people did come in and purchase did get a permit. And out of those 8, 4 actually were removed as of today, were actually taken down. So, and then we had 1 appeal. And this is where we are today with the 1 appeal at the 535 Church Street. I did send out Bob, the arborist, his email, the 10-page, if anybody had a chance to read the 10-page reason on why he did recommend for the removal on the 535 Church Street. He did say he would recommend, based on the borough's code and that according to the appeal process, they write a letter and then they have a certified arborist give the reason why they feel that the tree does not have to be removed. Now the solicitor, Doherty, I don't know how to attend. Mostly then you guys would vote on either to accept the appeal or not. I've never gone through this part of it before, and I apologize.
But what I would think, is right now we have the arborist's opinion. And then we have the property owner basically saying, oh, that tree's not dead. It blooms every year. And, I don't know what the will of council would be if you want more information, i.e. actually holding some sort of a hearing to allow the property owner to come before the body. How you want to proceed.
One question I have is, the property owner is not a tree expert.
Right.
We pay an arborist.
That's true.
Arborists can sometimes tell when looking at a tree that looks perfectly healthy, that it is dead inside and a danger
Yes.
going down. Do we go with the opinion, Luke?
So I know these folks personally, and I actually looked at their tree. And I'm not trying to debate what, I read the report that she sent us for the arborist. And so I'm not trying to say that I find fault in his process. I think what might be frustrating these particular folks is it seemed a little arbitrary. And I was going to bring it up next week, but that's a bit of what I was going to bring up. It seemed like maybe they didn't receive as much of a thorough explanation as we were sent from the arborist, explaining the different points that they were looking at. And so that might be some of why they're pushing back. Also, I would say some trees in the borough were taken care of by the borough, some trees are not. And so there might just be a little bit of ambiguity there that might need to be tightened up a bit, which may alleviate some of this pushback in the future. And again, I'm very briefly talking about something else I was going to bring up at a later date, but that was a bit of the nature of what I was going to bring up. And that might help alleviate this. It may not help these folks with this tree, but it might help further appeal processes if maybe they understood a little better on how we got to this tree is considered unsafe and why. Because when I looked at it, I am not an arborist. I am a tree service professional though. It had a nice canopy. You could see the buds. It wasn't sloughing bark. There was not a lot of visual cues that I would look for. Reading the gentleman's explanation, I understand what he was looking for after I read through that. I can understand how he would have gathered that conclusion. And I'm not going to sit here and argue with him about that. I believe him. But if that makes a little sense to you, the letter sent doesn't necessarily have 10 pages of information on how we gathered that conclusion. And I think that might be the nature of the real problem with this particular case.
The homeowners are entitled to a thorough explanation.
I think it might simply have been that simple. They could explain to us a little more why this is the way it is. And what my reading of the letter was you file an appeal and you get more information. That's a little bit the gist of what I got when I read the letter that they had received.
The homeowner has not seen the arborist's letter? Is that
Not
something
the
we can provide
explanation
them?
page. They did get a letter.
Oh, yeah, but they didn't get the whole 10 page. Okay. Are we gonna supply that to them?
And again, this is my first time dealing with the shade tree uphill issue. So, yeah, I'll be happy to reach out to, and I did contact the owner and did talk to him about the appeal process and, but I would definitely give them this report.
The other question is that notice come from Shade Tree Committee or does it come from the borough?
And I think according to the borough, the ordinance, they have to appeal to the borough council. So it doesn't go to Shade Tree.
Just, I mean, out of a fundamental fairness, I would think that we should put it on the agenda, and I know you have it on our agenda for today, but did the property owner know that he was able to come to address council tonight?
Yes, I mean, that was part of the conversation, or to bring a letter. They only had, according to their letter, they had 10 days to submit a letter of appeal. So I agree with Lou, the letter does, the letter that the borough sends out probably could be looked into.
Letters and, I put my family in tears. Like they're basically saying, take down this tree that is this beautiful tree in front of your house. And, from the visual aspect, it looked fine to us. But that was sort of the final deal. So yeah, we could probably communicate better when we're sending out these 16 letters. It's a little bit of like, that's work that we're asking our arborists to do. There's some work there, but it's probably worthwhile.
Play that Bob Crescent, this is not his favorite part of the job. He hates asking for tree removal removals to come down because, he's very, into his trees and he wants to see, the trees thrive and, he's not out there to look at every single, but he's more on a concern of a safety issue too. That's the main.
In all fairness, moving forward, the best way to do this would be maybe to table this until your next meeting or to some future meeting to provide the homeowner the opportunity to come in. Maybe he wants to get his own arborist's opinion,
Yes, and he would have that chance, yes.
but the opportunity to come in, have his expert present whatever they want to present to the council. Bob can present what he needs to present on behalf of the borough, and then you can make an informed decision and be, open, transparent, and allow some semblance of due process. That would be my opinion.
Homeowner and provide him with this information and provide him what you just told us that, we'll table it, have him a chance for him to come back if he wishes, after he reads this, maybe if he reads all this, then he might decide.
It would seem like at some point though, for a successful, at least for me, for a field to be successful, we need to at least hear from another expert, right? Because I think we're right. We're paying our arborists, and I didn't want my trees cut down either, but I'm not an arborist, and so that was the response was, well, if there's another arborist out there that you want to have an opinion on it, that's great.
I'm not an arborist, I've cut down a lot of trees. And the letter to the explanation email were very different. Much more explained, like it explained what they were looking for and root damage and all kinds of things that were not in the letter. And again, it may have simply been that simple. Further explanation would have, okay, I see where you're coming from, well, kind of thing.
Comes from the code department, cites the ordinance and cites the violation. And again, I don't think we can send a 10-page letter to a homeowner. I don't know if they're gonna take the time to read it. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that why can't we? If we're sending out a letter saying they have to take their tree down, we should be able to send them the reason why.
Out of the 17 that went out, 8 already came in. They agreed with, the letter that it needs to be taken down. Some did call, talk to Jared. I talked to actually 2 people on the issue. And so they did proceed with getting some trees down, removed. No, just the one that was, if there was an appeal. But he does provide a list, and I believe, like, he provided us a list of what trees went to the code department, and he did put it like an explanation on why, he did pick these trees, a short explanation, nothing in detail like that.
I just think to the point.
Yeah, I thought the report was already made. If it's not already made, then yeah.
But
you
there
need to
are
wait for
some
appeal.
basic guidelines he lays out that would be generic. I don't know if all 10 pages are generic, but it says, he looks at these certain aspects of the tree, which again, we're just gonna bring it up later, but.
I was thinking also that, it creates more work up front to include, to cut and paste his 2-sentence explanation into the letter that goes to the homeowner. It does create more work on the front end, but for basically one phone call that you get in questioning what happened, that amount of work is negated. And so that's what I was wondering, if it wouldn't hurt to include.
Does include a short description, like the tree is in decline and dying and needs to be removed. Like it does, not again into detail because of this.
There's some tree rot observable. There's a little bit.
One other thing I wanted to bring up, a new business, if the tree thing is done for right now, or do we need to vote on something?
If we're not going to vote on this yet.
And then come back.
So sorry. I wanted to bring up with the Dunkin' Donuts thing, there's been a lot of conversation about light posts and trees and other things. And what I haven't heard, and again, I missed the very beginning of this, I wasn't here yet. But I don't believe it's been talked about, is the other side of the coin. They're talking about a lot of new jobs potentially. And they mentioned 24 to 25 new jobs in the borough. With that comes an income tax revenue stream for the borough. And I am new to the admin committee, so I don't know all the exact right words to say, but I do think that it might make sense to gather some rough numbers of what that might look like before we, you know, because we're talking about parking meters, we're talking about trees, we're talking about light posts, we're talking about safety. Obviously, these are all important things. But so is the other side, right? And if we have 25 new jobs, what is that going to do for the borough, right? And what would that income tax be? What would the property taxes be? You know,
Have that information for community development. That is.
sounds like you're ahead of me then. Cool. I just think that would be an important thing to bring up publicly, as we're all obviously formulating opinions and talking to community members. It would probably be good to say, I know that there's a risk here, but this would be the offset. And it doesn't make one better than the other, but it does feel like a little bit of a one-sided scale at the moment from the information we're getting. And I think in total fairness, to a business that's trying to bring us business into our borough. And for other, you know, the most educated would be to have those numbers readily available. Obviously, you're not going to get exact. You don't know exactly what people are going to be paid, blah, 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 but I think the spirit is.
Yeah, I think it's coming up in community development. Move to adjourn.